Melody Shari, who was once seen as quietly dealing with heartbreak and trying to move forward with her life, but after months of tension, rumors, and emotional strain, she has now made a bold shift by reportedly bringing in Lisa Bloom instead of responding through social media or interviews. This decision has led fans to question what direction things are taking, especially as Melody has previously spoken about waiting for the right moment to move forward in life and dealing with deep emotional pain behind the scenes. From the beginning, Melody and Martell were seen as a strong and successful couple building businesses, raising a family and working towards shared goals, but over time, rumors of infidelity began to surface and eventually turned into a pattern that deeply damaged their marriage. What made this situation even more painful for Melody was not just the betrayal itself, but the repeated breakdown of trust, which eventually led to a very public and emotional divorce that fans followed closely and debated heavily online. However, even after the separation, the conflict did not end, as social media exchanges, interviews, and ongoing tension kept the situation alive and growing. More recently, serious allegations have surfaced involving possible violations of privacy, including claims about the sharing of private content without consent, which has shifted the situation from personal drama to something that could carry legal consequences. Instead of responding publicly, Melody has remained silent and focused, later making a strategic move by involving Lisa Bloom, a well-known attorney associated with high-profile legal battles involving privacy and misconduct. This decision has changed how people view the situation, with many now believing it could become a legal case rather than just public drama. Meanwhile, Martell's responses have remained vague and indirect, often shared through emotional or cryptic social media posts, which has only increased speculation and divided public opinion. As discussions continue, some believe others may have known about parts of the situation earlier but chose not to speak out, adding another layer of complexity and betrayal. Through all of this, Melody has maintained a calm and intentional approach, focusing on healing, strength, and rebuilding her life rather than engaging in public arguments. At the heart of it, this situation is no longer just about reality TV drama, but about trust, privacy, and the consequences of actions behind closed doors, and if these legal steps continue, the outcome could have serious and lasting effects for everyone involved. As the situation continues to unfold, attention from fans and online viewers keeps growing, with many closely watching every small update for clues about what might happen next. If legal action does move forward, it could open the door to deeper investigations, statements from involved parties, and possibly evidence that has not yet been made public. That is why many people believe this stage is more serious than anything that has happened before, because once things reach a legal level, the discussion shifts from opinions and rumors to facts and documentation. At the same time, the emotional weight of the situation cannot be ignored, as everyone involved is dealing with pressure, public judgment, and the long-lasting effects of broken trust and conflict. For Melody, this moment represents more than just responding to past events. It is about setting boundaries, protecting her peace, and making sure her side of the story is handled in a controlled and lawful way. For Martell, it places him under even more scrutiny as public perception continues to shift depending on how he responds or chooses not to respond. Overall, what once looked like a reality TV storyline has now developed into something far more complex, where personal history, legal concerns, and public opinion are all colliding at the same time, and the final outcome is still uncertain. The growing tension has also reignited public debate around how much of what viewers see on reality television reflects real life versus what is shaped by editing, production, and outside narratives. Many fans are now revisiting earlier moments from the show, trying to piece together signs they may have missed and reevaluating conversations that once seemed simple but now feel loaded with hidden meaning. This shift has kept the discussion active, as every new interview, post, or indirect comment is analyzed and interpreted in different ways across social media. At the same time, the emotional impact of the situation continues to be a major focus. For Melody, This is not just about public perception, but also about protecting her peace and making decisions that prioritize her well-being and her children's stability. Choosing a legal route rather than a public back and forth suggests a desire to step away from constant noise and handle matters in a more structured and private way, even while the public remains heavily invested. For Martell, the ongoing attention brings continued pressure as every statement or lack of statement is being closely watched and interpreted. In situations like this, silence can often create more questions, while vague responses tend to fuel even more speculation, making it difficult for the narrative to settle in any one direction. As things continue to develop, the focus has clearly shifted from entertainment to accountability, privacy, and long-term consequences. Whether or not this becomes a fully active legal case, the situation has already changed how many people view the individuals involved and the history between them. In the end, what remains certain is that the story is still unfolding, and the next steps could determine not only public opinion, but also the future direction of everything connected to it. As the situation continues to evolve, there is also a growing sense that this moment represents a turning point not just for those directly involved, but for how similar reality TV conflicts are handled moving forward. What once would have stayed within the boundaries of television drama and social media commentary is now being treated with far more seriousness, especially as legal representation enters the picture and the allegations being discussed carry heavier implications. At the same time, public interest remains extremely high, with fans continuing to analyze past footage, interviews, and online activity in an attempt to understand how the situation reached this point. Every detail is being revisited through a new lens, and what once seemed like ordinary disagreements now appears more layered and complicated in hindsight. Despite the noise surrounding the situation, Melody's approach continues to stand out as controlled and deliberate. Instead of engaging in ongoing public exchanges, she appears to be prioritizing long-term stability and legal clarity over short-term reactions. This shift in strategy suggests a focus on protecting both her personal life and her future from further disruption. Meanwhile, the ongoing silence and indirect communication from other sides of the situation continue to fuel uncertainty, leaving space for speculation to grow. In the absence of clear statements, public interpretation fills the gaps, which often leads to even more divided opinions and heightened tension online. Ultimately, as more time passes, the situation is becoming less about moment-to-moment drama and more about resolution, accountability, and closure. While the final outcome is still unknown, what is already clear is that the dynamics between everyone involved have permanently changed, and whatever happens next will likely define the next chapter of this ongoing story. As developments continue, one of the biggest shifts in public perception is the realization that this situation is no longer contained within entertainment spaces. It has expanded into discussions about boundaries, privacy rights, and how public figures navigate personal disputes when millions are watching. This has made the conversation more serious, with less focus on speculation for entertainment and more attention on possible real-world consequences. Within this environment, every small update is treated as meaningful, even when official information remains limited. Fans and commentators continue to interpret tone, timing, and silence as signals, which keeps the situation constantly active across social media platforms. However, without confirmed details, much of what circulates remains interpretation rather than fact, adding to the uncertainty surrounding the full picture. At the same time, the emotional complexity behind the situation remains significant. Regardless of public opinion, the individuals involved are dealing with long-standing history, personal loss, and the challenge of rebuilding identity after a highly public breakdown of trust. These kinds of experiences often extend beyond what is seen publicly, influencing decisions that are more private, strategic, and protective in nature. For Melody, this ongoing phase appears to be centered on control and direction, choosing when and how to respond, rather than reacting to every public comment or rumor. That approach reflects a shift toward long-term protection rather than short-term engagement, especially in situations where reputations and personal boundaries are at stake. For Martell, continued attention means that perception remains unstable, shaped heavily by interpretation rather than clear communication. In high-profile disputes, that lack of clarity often leads to ongoing speculation, which can prolong public interest even when direct updates slow down. As a result, the situation is gradually moving into a stage where outcomes matter more than narratives. Whether through legal processes, private resolution, or continued public discussion, the direction that follows will likely determine how this chapter is ultimately remembered. For now, however, the uncertainty remains, and the story continues to unfold without a clearly defined ending in sight. As the situation continues to develop, there is also a noticeable shift in how the public is engaging with the people involved. What once centered mainly on gossip and entertainment has increasingly turned into deeper conversations about accountability, boundaries, and the long-term effects of highly public personal conflicts. This change in tone reflects how invested audiences have become, but also how seriously some of the allegations and implications are now being taken. At the same time, the lack of direct, detailed public statements from key individuals continues to leave gaps that are quickly filled by speculation. In today's social media environment, silence often becomes part of the narrative itself, with people interpreting it in different ways depending on their perspective. This keeps the situation active, even when there are no major official updates. For Melody, the current phase appears to be about maintaining control over her narrative while avoiding unnecessary public escalation. By stepping away from reactive communication and focusing on structured legal support, she positions herself in a way that prioritizes stability over constant engagement. This approach also signals an effort to separate emotional reaction from long-term decision-making, especially in a situation that has already been highly public and personally exhausting. For Martell, the continued attention means that every move, whether direct or indirect, remains under scrutiny. In high-profile disputes like this, even small actions can take on larger meaning, and without clear communication, interpretations often multiply. This creates an ongoing cycle where public perception is shaped less by confirmed facts and more by inference and reaction. Despite all the discussion, what is becoming increasingly clear is that this situation has moved beyond simple public entertainment. It now involves reputational risk, legal considerations, and deeply personal consequences that extend far beyond what is visible online. Because of that, the focus is slowly shifting from speculation about what happened next to anticipation of whether any formal resolution will emerge at all. Ultimately, as the story continues to unfold, it remains defined by uncertainty. Each new development adds another layer, but does not fully close the gap between public perception and private reality. And until clearer outcomes emerge, the situation will likely continue to evolve in both the legal and public spaces, shaping how it is ultimately understood and remembered. As the situation continues to unfold, another important layer is how long-running conflicts like this often evolve beyond the original individuals involved. Friends, extended family members, and even professional circles can become indirectly impacted as conversations shift, alliances form, and public commentary spreads. In highly visible disputes, the ripple effect can sometimes be just as significant as the main storyline because it influences reputations and relationships beyond what is directly shown or confirmed. At the same time, the audience's role in sustaining attention cannot be ignored. With constant online discussion, clips, and commentary circulating across platforms, narratives can take on a life of their own. This often leads to repeated reinterpretation of past events, where earlier moments are re-examined through the lens of current developments, sometimes reinforcing assumptions rather than clarifying them. For Melody, this environment reinforces why a more controlled and legally guided approach may be necessary. When public conversations become continuous and unpredictable, limiting direct engagement can help reduce further escalation and allow space for more structured resolution. It also helps maintain clearer boundaries between private decisions and public speculation, which becomes increasingly important as attention intensifies. For Martell, ongoing visibility means that perception remains fluid and heavily influenced by external interpretation. In situations where clear, consistent communication is limited, narratives are often shaped by reaction rather than confirmation, which can make it difficult to stabilize public understanding